Having spent the last 2 decades as a freelance writer left me unqualified for any actual employment. I needed a job and couldn't summon up the grit to apply for one. Well, that's not entirely true. After I left Rhodenbarr, I landed for a few weeks in Charleston, South Carolina, where one day I responded to a card in a shoe repairman's window. He was looking for an apprentice, and I was addled enough to think this was something I might do. Now, 37 is an advanced age for an apprenticeship, and while my fingers could cope with a typewriter keyboard, they were hardly agile enough for a cobbler's work, so I'd be hard put to come up with a job for which I was less qualified. The fellow was set to hire me, but he needed someone who'd stick around, and I figured I'd be leaving Charleston by the end of the month. I could have had a few weeks' work and earned a few meals, but I didn't have the heart to disappoint the man. He appreciated my honesty, he told me, and had the feeling I had the makings of a damn good shoe repairman. And in the dry and dismal months that followed, I wondered if I'd passed up the opportunity of a lifetime. But I went on drifting and kept trying to get something written. I was in a motel room outside of Mobile, Alabama, when I wrote what was trying to be the first chapter of a Matthew Scudder novel. In it, an oafish fellow turns up at Scudder's table at Armstrong's. Scudder had arrested him for burglary some years back, and the fellow hadn't learned his lesson. But now the cops were after him for a murder he hadn't committed, and he was on the run and wanted Scudder to find a way to clear him. Well, it was a premise, but it never got anywhere. I wrote 10 or 20 pages, and that was the end of it. It wasn't the first time this sort of thing happened, nor was it the last. Some ideas turn into books, many more turn into landfill. But those few pages, long since tossed aside and forgotten, gave a name to a character I hadn't yet developed. Back to the Magic Hotel. I couldn't write anything, I couldn't sell anything, and I'd missed my chance in the world of shoe repair. What the hell could I do to turn a buck? I've written before about the little voice that spoke to me. "Don't rule out crime," it said. Crime? You don't need a resume, it pointed out, or a curriculum vitae. You know how all the job ads say, experience a must? Well, walk into a liquor store and point a gun at the clerk, and he's not going to ask you if you've done this before. But I didn't want to point a gun at anybody, and I sure as hell didn't want anyone to point a gun at me. Violence? The mere threat of violence? No, I don't think so. Burglary, the voice continued. Actually, it's a lot like writing. You do all you can to avoid human contact. You set your own hours, and you can work at night if you want. And so on. I thought about it. Seriously. Well, that's hard to say. I did teach myself to use an otherwise useless credit card to breach the door of my hotel room, but I never tried the trick on somebody else's door. So I'd characterize the notion as a fantasy, but a serious fantasy. Still, who knows where it might have led? What I do know is where it did lead, to this conversation with the little voice. Wait a minute, suppose I got caught. That's where inexperience is an asset. As a first offender, you might get probation. At worst, you'd be sure of a light sentence. A prison sentence? Me? How bad would it be? They'd have to feed you. You wouldn't have to worry about coming up with the rent. I guess it might not be that terrible, and... Wait a minute. Suppose I broke into somebody's house and the cops came...